From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
We're live in Nogales as Vice President Mike Pence talks to immigration officials and tours the southern border.
Plus, Arizona lawmakers voting to repeal a decades-old sex ed law that some say is anti-LGBTQ. We break down what changes would come to a classroom's curriculum.
And women made history this week as they competed for the first time on the golf course that's home to the Masters. How students from right here in Arizona helped make it happen.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Taylor Rocha.
And I'm Bobby Kraus. Thank you for joining us.
They want to have open borders. Think of these people. Suppose like I said, let's have an open border. They'll flood your houses. They'll shoot you. They'll take over your house. They'll take your car, and they'll probably stay there. Why not?
Expect more troops on the border to help keep residents safe. That's the word from President Donald Trump yesterday while in San Antonio.
Now today, Vice President Mike Pence is visiting Nogales to see the issues firsthand. Cronkite News reporter Austin Westfall is in Nogales and attended the briefing.
Right now, I'm driving through the desert in the Vice President's motorcade. We're en route to the border where immigration officials are going to give him a tour. The Vice President said earlier at a press conference that there's an immigration crisis on the southern border and it's causing a national security threat.
We have a broken system. We have a porous border. You saw the President's determination to secure funding for a wall, and I know there'll be some 80 miles between Tucson and Yuma sector where we'll be building physical barriers in the next year, but we call on Congress today to do your job. And courageous men and women of our Customs and Border Patrol are doing their job every day. President Trump has done his job securing the funding to support your efforts and to build a wall. But now it's time for Congress to do their job, to come together on a bipartisan basis and address this very real crisis for the sake of the American people, for the sake of our security, and to end this crisis of illegal immigration on our southern border.
The Vice President will fly out of Tucson around 5 p.m. tonight en route to Omaha, Nebraska, where he's going to be talking with flood victims. In Nogales, Austin Westfall, Cronkite News.
One organization is speaking out against the Vice President's visit. The Center for Biological Diversity has filed a lawsuit against this Trump administration over the emergency declaration to fund the border wall. They sent this statement, which reads in part, "Unless Pence is here to take down the vile razor wire his administration strung through the safe community, he should pack up and go home." It is disgusting that Pence and Trump keep demonizing these border cities and then using them as props. It needs to stop.
Arizona lawmakers have voted to repeal an Arizona sex ed law that is often viewed as anti-LGBTQ. Equality Arizona filed the suit last month to repeal the law as they question the constitutionality of the legislation. The decades-old law prohibits HIV and AIDS instruction that promotes a homosexual lifestyle, portrays homosexuality as a positive alternative lifestyle, or suggests any safe sex methods. Those pushing to repeal the law say this law stigmatizes lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender students. The action comes just one day after Attorney General Mark Brnovich told lawmakers he would not defend the state in the lawsuit filed last month.
Start to get into a dangerous precedent where the AG isn't defending laws that are on the books. That's a little concerning.
We were able to go ahead and add in a line that still gives parents and protects parents' rights to opt out or opt into a program such as this. And we are also looking at it from a cost analysis. If the AG is not going to defend the state, the House and the Senate will have to pay somebody to do so. Right.
The measure passed yesterday in the House, this morning in the Senate, and has already been signed by Governor Ducey.
Planned Parenthood and the Center for Reproductive Rights has filed a case challenging 3 long-withstanding anti-abortion laws in Arizona. The two agencies held a press briefing this morning to announce the lawsuit. According to the Abortion Fund of Arizona, these TRAP laws, also known as targeted regulations of abortion providers, are meant to protect patients by putting more restrictions on doctors who perform abortions and their facilities. Meanwhile, yesterday, Planned Parenthood and the ACLU of Utah announced they filed a federal lawsuit challenging the state's recent ban on abortion after 18 weeks. Representative Cheryl Action sponsored the Utah bill. She says she recognizes this issue could go to the Supreme Court and could potentially overturn Roe versus Wade.
In the 4 decades since the Supreme Court recognized a woman's right to an abortion, little has changed in the debate between pro-life and pro-choice forces.
But now pro-life groups claim they have a new argument on their side: science. Cronkite News reporter Alyssa Klink is following this debate in Washington.
It was 1973 when the Supreme Court handed down its landmark Roe v. Wade decision. But pro-life groups say there is a critical difference between now and then.
I think science is on our side.
Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican from South Carolina, is talking about the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. It would criminalize abortion past 20 weeks of a pregnancy, the point at which pro-life groups say a fetus can feel pain. While they say science is on their side, pro-life groups say modern science shows just the opposite, and they accuse the bill's backers of pushing an agenda, not science.
That's sort of offensive and disgusting, once again, to see politicians trying to play doctor.
Graham disagreed, noting at a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that it is common to administer anesthesia at 20 weeks for fetal surgery. Senator Dianne Feinstein, a California Democrat, challenged that with an American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology finding that fetal nerves are not that well developed at that age. The bill does make exceptions for the life of the mother or in cases of rape or incest. It also makes clear that the mother may not be prosecuted, only the provider. Graham is convinced that the tide is turning in his favor.
I think most people, once they know about what we're talking about, that will gain momentum and this will become law.
The majority of the American public supports Roe v. Wade. They want people to have safe and legal access to abortion care.
In Washington, Alyssa Klink, Cronkite News.
Now, this is not the first time lawmakers have pushed the bill. Former Arizona Congressman Trent Franks tried repeatedly to pass a pain-capable abortion act without success.
Even if the Senate passes the bill, it is not expected to go far in the Democrat-controlled House.
Now, hemp used to be considered a Schedule I controlled substance, putting it in the same category as heroin and ecstasy. But when Congress passed the Farm Bill last year, it removed that designation. That's legalized the commercial use of industrial hemp. Cronkite News reporter Amani Stevens joins us live now with more on what this means for Arizona farmers. Amani?
Arizona lawmakers also passed a bill this year that allows farmers to grow hemp. Now, Arizona's Department of Agriculture is developing the regulations. But there's a farmer in Casa Grande who has some concerns about planting hemp.
As a farmer, you're always looking for something different to grow.
A third-generation farmer, Paul Allerton, owner of Tierra Verde Farms, is considering using some of his land to grow industrial hemp.
You can utilize the whole plant. You know, either fiber or whatever, protein powders, oil. It's just amazing.
Industrial hemp is in everything from clothing to paper to car parts.
The farmer's another crop that they can be able to grow, rotate in, because you can't grow the same crop over and over and over.
Republican Senator Sonny Borelli has long championed the benefits of industrial hemp. This year, his legislation to allow farmers to grow hemp ahead of planting season in August made it to the governor's desk and is now law.
Trying to is government moving as fast as business, and I think this is a great example of how things should be done.
Farmers have to go through the Arizona Department of Agriculture to apply for a license to grow hemp.
It's one of the things why this is going to be heavily regulated, because you have to go through a permitting process and have a license, because this is going to grow on a more industrial scale. It's not just going to be done in your backyard.
But there are concerns.
I think the major hurdles with this program is a lot of the unknowns.
The unknown has Farmer Allerton worried.
We don't know everything about farming. Every year's different. You've got weather, insect issues, too much rain, too hot, too cold, too windy. You name it. There's just all kinds of environmental factors. I think the biggest concern I have is really the THC levels.
According to the Arizona Department of Agriculture, the law states that industrial hemp must be below 0.3% of THC.
If you go over 0.3% and you can't get it back down to that level, then it becomes a crop destruct situation because it's considered cannabis. You've put all this money into it and you've grown it, and 120, 150 days later, you've got to destroy it because you can't get the THC levels to where they need to be for it to become hemp or remain as hemp.
When we spoke to Allerton in February, he just finished harvesting his 38th cotton crop.
After you've been here for a few years, I mean, you grow some things and it doesn't work out so well.
Arizona is not the first state to allow farmers to grow hemp.
We looked at Colorado, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Kansas. So yeah, there's several states that we looked at their rule language to see what would best fit for this state.
Colorado-based Zave Pace has been involved with industrial hemp since 2012. He says there's an economic benefit in growing the crop from the ground up.
Many farmers who are growing more traditional commodities, things like wheat and rice and soy, corn, are making very, very little money, if any, on the sale of their product. So they may feel confident or feel excited if they end up earning $300, $400, $500 per acre when they sell their product, where a hemp farmer can make 10 times that amount.
Allerton planned to plant more acres, but recently told us that he's only going to plant around 2 to 5 acres.
It's like I tell everybody, be cautious and start with small acres and go from there. See what works for you on your farm.
Hemp is known as the cousin to marijuana, but there are some distinct differences. The THC concentration levels for hemp are low, while marijuana's levels are higher. Another distinction is that there are no psychoactive components involved with hemp, but there are with marijuana. Live in the studio, Imani Stevens, Cronkite News.
Members of the Arizona State women's golf team helped make history this weekend.
Straight ahead on Cronkite News, we talk to the women who are going down in the history books for being the first females to compete at Augusta National Golf Course.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
The Masters began at Augusta National Golf Club today, as it does every year in early April for a select group of professional men's golfers.
But it's the event that played out last week at the fabled golf club that had the golf world abuzz, as women competed for the first time. Ashley Mackey explains what part Arizona State played in this historic event.
Last week, 72 of the top international women golfers teed off in the inaugural Augusta National Women's Amateur, and the Arizona State Sun Devils were well represented. I went to Papago Golf Course to talk to some of the golfers about their experience in this historic event.
Amazing.
Excellent.
Magnificent. I think perfect is the right word.
3 current and 2 incoming members of the Sun Devil Women's Golf Program competed in the inaugural Augusta National Women's Amateur. So what makes this event different from any other tournament?
For the years to come, you know you'll be in the history book as one of the first females to compete at Augusta.
That's right. This is the first time there has been a women's tournament at Augusta National since the course opened in 1933. And Coach Missy Farke tried to make her players understand the significance of the opportunity.
She said that you guys don't yet understand how huge an event it is before the event, and then when we got there, we were like, yeah, you know, Coach was right, as always.
Olivia Mahaffey, a junior from Northern Ireland, Sofia Anakina, a senior from Russia, and Alessandra Finali, a freshman from Italy, all agree it was an experience like no other.
I'm not already like, oh my God, I really played Augusta. Maybe I will realize this week when I'm like watching the guys playing, and I would be like, oh my God, I played there, really?
Not only was this a historic event for women's golf, but Coach Farke says having multiple Sun Devils compete at Augusta shows just how much of a force the ASU program is.
I would have been ecstatic about having one player play at Augusta National Women's Amateur. To have 5. It's such a phenomenal experience for them, and it's so great for our program because to be invited, you have to be at the top.
Farke says not only is it great for the program, but it's also inspirational for young women to see. Mahaffey and Anakina each earned a spot in the top 30, advancing them to the final day of the event. Anakina became the first Russian golfer, male or female, to compete at Augusta National.
Air quality has been a continued concern throughout Phoenix as pollution continues to rise. But bad air poses a greater threat to some groups of people more than others. Coming up on Cronkite News, we take a look into what is causing the pollution inequity and which groups are most affected.
And we saw wind gusts of up to 25 miles per hour yesterday. What this means for our air quality in just a few minutes.
Then I stumbled across the kids programs and I fell in love with author. I used to be a school teacher. Some of my classes I taught were K through 6. I liked author's approach to how you would teach a moral or how to teach a way to react to a situation. And they always had a moral of the story. So I still watch author quite religiously.
For more information about including Arizona PBS in your future plans, visit azpbs.org/giving.
With wildfires, a scarcity of water, and other environmental issues facing the Earth today, it's critical to stay up to date with local impacts of a changing climate. That's why we created Elemental, covering sustainability, a multimedia collaboration between public television and radio stations. From climate change to water conservation to renewable energy and much more, Elemental covers the latest in sustainability news. Find our stories on our website, elementalreports.com.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
The Arizona Department of Environmental Quality put out a high pollution advisory yesterday, alerting of the hazards blowing dust can have, adding to our air pollution.
A recent study found that minorities are inhaling more air pollution than non-white Hispanics. This is leading to medical problems such as asthma and cancer. Marcela Bayeto spoke with a Phoenix family that knows firsthand the negative breathing effects dirty air can have.
With all this traffic and buses in Phoenix, the city's air pollution is becoming a bigger problem, especially for minorities like 18-year-old Angelica Beltran Cuevas.
They found out that I had a lot of bad asthma coming from the buses, specifically from the diesel, the exhaust fume that was coming out.
She's one of the more than 174,000 Arizona youths who have asthma, according to the Arizona Department of Health Services.
People don't make the connection that your environment affects your health until it literally does. There's a lot of people, a lot of kids in South Phoenix who have asthma.
A recent study by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found non-Hispanic whites experience 17% less pollution exposure when compared to minorities. The study shows African Americans are exposed an average of 56% more to pollution, and Hispanics the most, with 63%.
Basically, we have kind of a situation where white people are causing more of the pollution and Black and Hispanic people are being exposed to more of it.
Beltran Cuevas has lived through what the study describes as pollution inequity.
If you were to go somewhere where it was mostly white dominated, for example, Scottsdale, there's not many buses.
On the other hand, in South Phoenix, where her family lives, Beltran Cuevas says the emissions and fumes from the buses, gas stations, and factories all add up, creating more and more pollution. An air pollution advisory by the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality went into effect this week due to high levels of dust and particles in the air, which can especially affect those who live with asthma, like Beltran Cuevas.
So we're fighting for schools to take the initiative and leadership and introduce electrical vehicles. I think that's the path forward. It's just looking at the technology and the innovations and the leadership of people who are asking for this.
It's affecting everybody, Caucasians, Black people, Asians, Hispanics, it's not just us.
In Phoenix, Marcela Bayeto, Cronkite News.
Meanwhile, that air quality warning raises concerns for music festivals kicking off this weekend. Country Thunder begins today in Florence, while Coachella Weekend 1 is also on the books starting tomorrow. With the high air pollution and blowing winds, those with respiratory issues should take precautions. Anyone who has asthma or other respiratory issues should make sure they're prepared with masks or bandanas to protect themselves from breathing in the dust and air. Country Thunder is expecting about 31,000 attendees this year.
And Lauren Sheeler is joining us now. And Lauren, when can we expect these air quality levels to maybe return to normal?
So wind gusts have already died down from yesterday. We were seeing 20 to 25 mile per hour winds, which is crazy for this time of year, but we don't want them to become stagnant, because then we deal with a whole other concern. If we have things like smoke or hazardous particles just resting in the air over our city, this isn't good news for us either. So we're still dealing with the aftermath from yesterday, and we're still dealing with that air quality alert. It's going to be in effect for us for today through midnight tonight in areas for us here in downtown, out west, and then down south for Gila Bend. But then that same cold front that brought those wind gusts has moved on, and we are dying down. We're seeing even single digits. We're seeing 7 mile per hour winds up in Scottsdale, and then we're seeing a massive temperature drop. We were dealing with the 90s earlier this week, and then we're only going to see high to low 70s here in the valley. Cooler 40s up north, 61 for Kingman, 78 for Lake Havasu City, 64 out east in Safford. And then this is the real concern. What better way to kick off your weekend than some isolated showers? We're seeing showers move in. They're going to kick in late tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be a couple sprinkles here and there, but then we're going to push this out, and you should be clear by tomorrow night. And then it is nothing but sunshine heading into your weekend. We're seeing highs climb back into the mid to upper 80s for both Saturday and Sunday. There's your rain for Friday, but then lows in the 50s climbing back into the 60s, and then no shot of rain heading into the next work week, but then we are creeping back, unfortunately, into the 90s by the end, looking at Thursday. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Lauren Sheeler.
Now, it was a sad day in the Valley last night as a legendary Scottsdale steakhouse is closing its doors after 38 years.
Straight ahead on Cronkite News, how the restaurant made an impact on its community during nearly 4 decades of business.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland, in Washington, in Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Then I stumbled across the kids programs, and I fell in love with author. I used to be a school teacher. Some of my classes I taught were K through 6. I liked author's approach to how you would teach a moral, or how to teach a way to react to a situation. And they always had a moral to the story. So I still watch author quite religiously.
For more information about including Arizona PBS in your future plans, visit azpbs.org/giving.
I'm Jose Cardenas, host of Horizonte. Each week we bring you experts and community leaders to discuss the issues that are vital to our community here in Arizona. We cover the stories that affect and inspire us and our families, and talk to the newsmakers who shape the communities where we live. Horizonte is your source and your voice for what matters most here on Arizona PBS.
Legendary restaurant Don and Charlie's served its last rack of ribs last night after 38 years of business.
The institution had become home for baseball's inner circle and the surrounding Phoenix community, especially during spring training with the Cactus League in full swing.
As expected, there was a full house on the final night of business, including former Major League Baseball Commissioner Bud Selig, who has a chopped steak named after him on the menu.
Obviously, there's a great baseball connection, but it became a connection for us as a family. In fact, we've spent this whole night worrying about where we're going to start going. I mean, because we were here at least a couple times a week.
I think people have fun here, and seemingly they like what we do, but I never thought we would garner this kind of attention. I really didn't.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS.
Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, it's got the science world buzzing. The first ever photo of a black hole. We'll talk about what it all means and how Arizona tribal leaders played a key role in the multi-state drought contingency plan.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, Tax Day is coming, making sense of what the new law means for your return. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.